an outdated system or a land of opportunity? Alright everybody, so I will actually make a reverse video of this as to why school sucks. I acknowledge that yes, there's pitfalls, student loan debt being one of them. That's the biggest one, we all know that, but just like lack of financial education, basic life skills, there's a couple other ones, but I don't want to get into that here. I really wanted to make this video because generally, like within the business community or even within just most industries, a college degree isn't as important or doesn't seem as important as it once was. And not only that, but just there seems to be a lot of just frowning upon kind of higher education. So there's always been this divide, right? And like, look, I'm not here to kind of fuel that divide again. I kind of like to see things from both sides because I got the best of kind of both worlds, and I feel like I'm fairly balanced in terms of just like street smarts and then academic smarts, if that's what you want to call it. But with all that in mind, there's tons of good that I think higher education, schools specifically, can still just offer our population as a whole here in 2022 at the time of recording. I wanted to kind of be that voice of just a reminder that your education is important. Like, it's not just something that like Asian parents, say, and like this thing that's propped up on a pedestal but doesn't necessarily reach that. Of course, there's pitfalls like anything, but there's tons of value there, and I'm someone that always likes to look for the value within any particular system or any particular activity or thing. It really doesn't matter what it is, no matter how negative something is. Even this pandemic, right? There's always positives. So this video is going to just break down the real big benefits of going to school and staying in school if you're someone that's kind of debating whether you want to leave, or if you're someone that just is kind of, just starting to think about these things. I didn't really start thinking about how some of the negatives in school until maybe like my freshman year of college. Before that, I was eating up school. I was so into the system, like it was my thing, excelled in school. So I can tell you, I definitely don't know what it's like. Like I know there's many people out there that haven't excelled or haven't gotten that experience, right? And that can lead to a different mindset, and I get that. I know many of those people, that's fine. But just to give you an idea of kind of where I'm from, I've always been very, very involved in school. Ever since, just high school and moving into college. Like, I've always looked for different opportunities, and I'm kind of someone that just likes to get out and do things rather than just kind of sit back, go to class, right? I get that. I know there's so many different types of people out there, but even for them, that's just an example of the things that are possible by going to schools. You just have so much opportunity on the table, and it's a choice as to whether you can take advantage of all these things. So whether this is clubs or other extracurriculars or sports or student employment, right, or even just like basic things that many people don't think about that are just nice to have in college. I mean, yes, given you're probably paying like a 40 grand per year tuition for it, like dining courts and gym memberships and all these sorts of things that are free in a sense. But let's face it, these are all really nice to have. Like, campuses are kind of a small version of what the real world is like, but like an ideal version of that, if that makes sense. If you go to, like, say Purdue, for example, Boiler Up, they are very, very hands-off in terms of like it's a very much like a free speech place. Like, you do say whatever you want, obviously not do whatever you want, but it's in the sense of like, I know there might be some colleges out there that make you wear uniforms and like might have like filters on your speech or like things you can say and can't say, and you have to like be in line with a certain agenda. But at least over at Purdue, when I went there, everything was very free. Like, we saw Jesus on campus like every other day. It's just the small things like that, protesting, all this stuff. It's just like a smaller version of the real world, but almost like an ideal version of the real world, depending on where you go. And that can just be like a really good growth opportunity. For me, it certainly was. I feel like I was very, very like introverted. In some ways, I still am. But my mindset and worldview was very, very limited in high school and just like living at home. I'm from a small suburb right outside of Chicago, and I didn't necessarily know too much about the world or traveling or like paid attention to the news or just like understood other cultures and ideas and stuff like this. I grew up in a dysfunctional family, so long story short, that obviously started me on an even more downward path, and like there's a lot of things that I just didn't unfortunately get access to that a lot of people might have, right? And there's tons of people I know like me out in the world. And that's what college, I think, is really great for, is it forces you to really expand that worldview and really just transition you into someone that might be a little like, I don't want to say ignorant, but that is the word, for lack of a better word. That was very ignorant. It really opens you up to new cultures, new opportunities, new ideas, and puts you in an environment where you're forced to grow, you're forced to change, and mainly, you're also forced to just enjoy life a little bit, because there's so much more free time in college, and that really gives you the opportunity to figure out what you want to do long term, what your big goals are, what your dreams are. It gives you the opportunity to work and make some money too. Like, there's just so much opportunity in my mind. And then it's without saying that, of course, you're going to make so many new friends too, especially if you grew up with a certain group, whether you liked them or didn't like them. You've never maybe expanded outside of that. Maybe you had the same friends since like elementary school, for example. You're able to meet new people from other places, literally like across the country and things like that, and gain just like new exposure to new types of people. And that in turn kind of influences you in the process, and you're able to, again, just have different groups that you're able to hang out with. And I think that's really, really cool. And at the end of the day, a great learning and growth opportunity. I think that a lot of people like to complain about school, but these same people really don't have a solution as to kind of how we can fix certain things. And most solutions honestly look pretty close to the same thing. Like, they have no clue to where to start. And I just, look, I'm all for people sharing their opinions and things like that, but it's really tough when you see someone that's just like either outside of the system, didn't have a good experience with the system, just like disgruntled students or disgruntled people that just hate school, and they just like talk about problems but don't necessarily have solutions to offer. So I don't necessarily have those. I'm not talking about them. I wanted to come at it from the positive angle. I think that school is a great foundation for what it is, and it's changed my life like so much for the better, and I know I'm sure many others as well, and just opened up a ton of opportunities for people. Any changes, I think, should just be layered on top, and I'll kind of delve deeper into that in my like reverse version of this video, which is just some of the things that need to improve about school. Let's get right to it. Here's why you shouldn't discount school just yet. So here's the number one thing that I wanted to start off with. It's actually a really good quote that a friend of mine said many years ago, and that still sticks with me to this day. But I never thought about school this way, but school is very good at making you really good at doing what you don't want to do. And that is so true beyond belief. Even for those that have excelled at school, like myself, like we don't love it. Like, people have this like misconceived notion that we love school, or that we're just so into the work and stuff. No, we hate homework, hate all this stuff, like just as much as people, and especially the year after year. That senioritis from like high school honestly stayed with me all of college. Like, it just never goes away. There's always, you have to push yourself constantly to get the work done, to go to class, to do all this stuff. Because let's face it, some of the work is redundant, and I don't want to go too deep into that here. But what I think this really teaches you, if you manage to learn that lesson, is that, again, it's very good at making you do things you don't want to do. I mean, that's life. Like, there's so many things that you can just ignore, but then you're not going to be a good functioning, contributing member of society. There's people I know in their like late 20s that still cook like frozen food and like eat out constantly, which like they've never learned how to cook. People who have never learned how to budget, people who have never learned how to even clean up after themselves. So you got the basic life skills, and then you also have the academic stuff. There's plenty of people out there that are super lazy, that don't want to work, that just rely on unemployment. I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're not one of them, so I hope I'm not offending anybody. And really, I don't care, because those people are not contributing to society in any way. And I feel like everybody, no matter what your wealth status is, should be contributing at some level. You should be creating some sort of value to society, right? And that's the whole point of getting jobs, right? That's literally the point of school, is to prepare you for jobs. And I think this is like an indirect lesson that you get, is just like preparing yourself to do what you don't want to do. Because guess what? Like, you're gonna graduate. I've had jobs all throughout college, so like I somewhat understood this, but it really became even more clear when I graduated. When you're doing, honestly, kind of the same thing every single day when you're working, and you're just doing the basic 9 to 5 and things like that, like that is what you don't want to do. And like, even if it's like a passion, it's still work. At the end of the day, you have to get up, you got to do it, you got to be there. You can't take a day off. You can in some cases, right? but you're limited on those days off. Like that's just how it is. And I think school is a great way to prepare you for that. Like the semester is not going to wait for you, right? You have to show up to take that exam. You got to make things happen. The next point that kind of feeds into that as well is just growth and change in the process, right? Especially if you move away to college. I made a whole separate video, if it's out by now, I'll link it on screen, about the moving process and what moving has really done for me in my life and how much it just really kickstarted a lot of goals and things that I have. But if you're going to a new place, new community, I strongly recommend people that are like choosing college and stuff like that to go out of state. I know you probably want to move toward with your friends and all this stuff, and I get that, but you're going to make new ones. Like, that's fine. And you're still going to stay in contact with those old friends. It never hurts to spend like 3-4 years outside of your current environment, meet new people, new cultures, get used to a new place, and just like generally learn how to travel, especially if you were like myself and didn't necessarily travel too much as a kid. At the end of the day, that just makes you a better human and just teaches you more, right? Instead of just feeling like you're a know-it-all or really getting used to like a place, right, for many, many years, and feeling that sameness, right? Nothing's gonna change, and then you yourself don't change too much. You have the same friends even through college, which honestly I think would get pretty annoying. Look, I love like my high school friends to death. People regularly need new relationships in their lives. It's just that sense of newness. It's just like it helps to you grow as a person. Otherwise you're gonna stay the same. And there's not going to be any growth. So that's one huge thing that just going to school can really just like kickstart, is you moving to a new place and you gaining that growth mindset. So on the same topic of friends, that's actually the third point, is just new friends and then just relationships. I'm not a relationship expert by any means. I'm going to focus more on the friend stuff. How many people in most cases, especially in my generation, we grew up without phones for a little bit. I know now in the digital age, people are making friends online and Xbox and all this stuff, but back in the day, not too long ago, and many people I'm sure still, most of your friends are from school. In one way or another, they're from like elementary school, middle school, high school, any other schooling you've done, higher education, right? Many, if not all your friends that aren't family members or introduced through family are from school. And that's just how it is. Like, that's where we spend a majority of our time. And through that, you're able to meet so many new people, and that's like such a wonderful thing, right? And that's just like an offshoot. I remember many folks in high school that like complained about going to school and all this stuff, and like whether they dropped out or not. Like when I touch base with those people to this day, guess who their only friends are? They're still the same people from high school. That's just how it is. Again, that's a great kind of motivator for me as someone that didn't necessarily, I remember for myself, and I'm sure many other people that are in similar situations out there have had it, growing up in a dysfunctional family. I enjoyed going to school every single day, at least when I was in high school. When I moved away to college, that's when some of the laziness started in the traditional I hate schoolness. But back then, it was like so exciting to wake up and go every day. Never had a problem waking up too much. Like that was the life, because all my friends were there. It was cool to get to see them every day. It was awesome. Because a lot of these people you're probably going to carry with you through life. And even now in the digital age with social media and everything, it's just so cool to see where people end up, even the folks that you don't talk to, but just knew or like sat in the same classroom with and stuff like that. And then let's not forget the parties. So I'm not a huge partier. That's a great part of school. I wish I went to them a little bit more often. I'm going to be honest. I just, was very academically oriented for the first like 2.5 years, and then started relaxing a little bit more. But yeah, I definitely recommend going to parties and just enjoying a lot of that, especially at the college level, just like tailgating and Thirsty Thursdays and just like all this stuff. It's fun. Like, you're never gonna get this community anywhere else, and I wish I did it more. But I pass that on to you as something that you'll thank me for later. So with that in mind, the fourth major thing, and there's 5 things in total, is opportunities. So I mentioned opportunities quite a bit. Mohit, what do those opportunities look like? So really expanding your career paths and networking opportunities. There's no better place. Like, we're never really taught networking, even in college, arguably. And I think that's something that I'll definitely touch on in like a separate video. But even so, like, you're able to still gain tons of resources like career centers and coaching and help, and from your advisors and all this stuff at the college level that I think is super valuable. Like, you have to be able to network, and everybody at some level always has somewhere to some place to improve. I seem like I'm a great communicator through these videos, and I've built that up quite a bit over the years. But then you go in a room networking with people, it's still very scary, but college is a great way to kind of alleviate that. and really practice that. You got career fairs. You have like if you join like certain clubs within like your industry or major or whatever, I'm sure they bring in companies that you can talk to. You have all this time to do like interviews and internship stuff. There's just a lot of time to really find your passion in your dreams, and I think that's so cool. And I think that's something that a lot of students take for granted. You got the people that might just go to class and then stay in their dorm all day just playing games, and like there were days when I did that. I get it. There's the other days where you really got to buckle down and understand how much you actually do have access to, especially if you live on campus. There's really no excuse to not go out and practice your networking skills, join a club and community of people that are interested in the same thing that you're interested in, and then also just like network with other companies that are coming to campus. These are essentially free interviews, almost in a sense, like free FaceTime with some of the best and brightest kind of leaders out there, and I think that's just so interesting. And then the final thing is kind of the obvious thing, but it's school itself. It's tons of knowledge and insight. I wrote this down because this is a very complex line. This is too many big words for me, but lots of insight into different disciplines, at least that gives you a fundamental basis into a lot of subjects. I know we all hate gen eds, like believe me, I hated them. I took a ton of AP courses in high school so I could test out of them in college, but then there's still some you have to take. That's just how it is. It sucks. But with that in mind, I think at the end of the day, again, I look for the positives in everything, at least for the first few years when I wasn't burnt out. I enjoyed it. There's a lot that maybe not so much the workload, but there was a lot that I did learn from it, and things that I probably will never use one day, but at the end of the day it just makes you a more well-rounded person. And I think well-roundedness is often overlooked. Like you have a ton of people that may just want to drop out right now and they don't care to learn anything new, and that's dangerous, I think, in my mind, because if you don't have that desire to learn anything new or to just stick it out, right? Consistency and learning things, like learning new things, what's gonna like make you want to do that later when you find your so-called passion, right? There's always gonna be parts of that passion, things in life that you're not gonna enjoy doing, things you're gonna have to learn to succeed in whatever field you're in. So like I think that being well-rounded and having the ability to learn new things that you may not have wanted to learn but can see the value in, is going to be the most valuable part of you, and it's going to make you a better leader and ultimately just a better professional in whatever field you're in. And then also allows you to really practice problem solving skills, mental stimulation, which many people who drop out and just like start working like not necessarily a dead-end job but a job specifically focused on money, don't have that mental stimulation, and then you get lazy and then dreams fall through, or you just don't have the capacity to execute on things that you thought you would because you didn't stimulate your mind constantly in the first place. And that's what I think school is really great for. All right, so that was it. Those are the 5 big benefits that I wanted to really briefly talk about school. Maybe not so briefly, but school isn't perfect. I get that. But it's essential for many powerful reasons. It really, in my mind, I think these points really make all the debt and all this stuff worth it. Unless you're filthy rich and didn't have to pay for college, like that's great. All power to you. That's even better. Then definitely go. I still don't regret like taking out the loans, and as much as I don't agree with the debt system and all this stuff, I think all this has been worth it in the end. It's changed me, at least for the better, and I'm sure many other folks out there as well, and future folks, hopefully after watching this video. So one last thing, isn't so much a disclaimer, but just a reality check. Unfortunately, it is what it is, but we have to face the reality of it. Life is much harder without a degree. I know many people that can attest to that. I can attest to that. I look at different roles on a daily basis. I just like looking at different jobs that are out there, and many of them, even if in my mind they don't really need a degree, for whatever reason still want a bachelor's, like, or an associate's, or even associates are pretty outdated now. So it sucks. Like it is what it is. Like until something changes, a degree is very valuable. Even if people like to downplay it and prop it up as something that isn't, the reality is that it is, and most jobs will require it, and it helps because then you're able to get your foot in the door just by having it, right? Faster than someone that probably hasn't. It's not to say they can't, it's just they may have to work 10 times harder to get there, and it's not fair to them, but It is what it is. Anyways, y'all, that's the video. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you think if you enjoyed this video. This is a particular one that I really wanted to make for a while. Let's smash that like button. Let's get this video trending higher than the amount of student loan debt that I still have right now. And I really need to pay that off soon because that interest rate is piling up. Please subscribe if even a fraction of my videos really resonate with you, and I'll see everybody in the next one. Peace out.